All right, and welcome in here to another episode of Two Guys and Beer. And glad you could join us here for the next episode. Andy Beckstrom along with Sean Field. And glad you could join us yet again as we work our way through another adventure in the history of various breweries. Come along with us, if you will. We're actually going to talk about a couple of different breweries today. It's going to be Mason Ale Works and Blackstack Brewery. The reason there's going to be two of them is the beer that we have is actually a collaboration made with both of them. I think it's actually produced by Mason Ale Works, but it is set up between the two breweries. So both of them kind of involved in that. And so we'll get kind of a chance to be able to talk about multiple breweries this time instead of just one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. New episode, something new for us. Never done a beer on the show of a collaboration between two different breweries. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes and the different history between the two and maybe how it came about.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty good. So first and foremost, though, I suppose the best part of the episode. There we are. Now that's love seeing that audio pop on the on the computer here.
The opening of the beer.
So
and you can certainly smell it.
Oh yeah,
it's got quite the smell right off the bat.
It's got a very pungent smell. It is a just as an FYI what we have. So it's the two different breweries that we're going to be talking about. But the beer that we have is actually kind of it's a fun name, if you will. Sunday Beer League is the name of the beer. So it's just kind of a fun name, which is kind of I think where kind of the idea for it came from. It's just, more of a fun name more than anything else. But it is just buyer beware. It is a triple IPA, a tripa, if you will, or a tripa, depending on who you are and how you say it. But a triple IPA, which means it's going to have triple the hops instead of just one round and just kind of, whatever. It's very, very hop forward. It's going to be likely a lot of kind of that hoppy flavor. It's also 9.8% alcohol by volume. So it's you're not going to need much more than the 4-pack of tall boys.
Don't drink too much of this. That's what we have here is a 4-pack of tall boys or pounders. I think one will probably be good for the night, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long night to work with, so, but it's so it's 9.8. So it definitely has some punch to it. First sip, at least, it does definitely have that IPA type of flavor to it. It's very not chewy, but it's thick. It's thick in that IPA type taste.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It definitely is pretty thick. You can definitely it definitely tastes like an IPA. It's definitely pretty hoppy, but it's not overpowering. Like it's actually not too bad. I was thinking for a triple IPA here, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be pretty hoppy. I mean, it is hoppy, but it's not overpowering or strong.
Right.
Like last week's episode, that was even almost tasted hoppier than this.
Right. Yeah. And that was almost kind of weird because as soon as we popped the top, like you could smell it and you're like, oh, you could still smell this one, but it's not, like you said, it's not super overpowering with the way the flavors are.
No, so, it's kind of smooth.
Which
I think when you drink this, which is different for an IPA like this.
And dangerous too, I guess, being a 9.8. if it's nice and smooth and going down easy.
Especially if you haven't eaten, it'll catch up to you real quick. Don't drink and drive, people.
Yeah, don't do that. We'll have some pizza.
That's a
don't
safety
worry.
Disclaimer.
We'll watch the rest of Monday Night Football and be able to do that. So
eat some pretzels.
Exactly, pretzels. See, so before we went on here, whatever, we're going to kind of go. This is going to be a little bit more tangent Tuesday, I think, on a Monday. But before we went on, we were talking a little bit about food at breweries, and I similar to Sean, think that it's fine not having food there. It's not a huge deal, but it is also kind of annoying sometimes that so I just want to have like a burger or something like that, and I get that they're like, that's their food in a way and whatever. But, it's sometimes it's like, if they only have like the Von Hansen's pretzels, like the little cup of cheap pretzels or whatever.
It's so terrible.
It always gets me because when I think Von Hansen's, I think like the meat products and the meat locker and stuff like that. So I always conjure in my mind, like it's going to be one of those big soft pretzels,
right.
But it never is. And it's so disappointing to me.
It
every
is
single
so
time.
disappointing. And they have the different flavors of those Von Hansen's pretzels too, and they're just terrible.
Yeah.
You know, and you get
they're-
about a 6-ounce tub in front of you. There's like 6 pretzels in there. Not only do they taste bad, you don't get very many of them.
Yeah.
You know, it'd sure be nice if breweries would have some other alternatives too, even besides frozen peas. It'd be nice to get some mini tacos.
Yeah.
Everybody loves mini tacos. Or
Something-
buffalo wings.
Yeah. Something that
You
you
know?
can get some fried food and, be able to work with some of that. So,
Right.
which is good when you do find that or whatever. You just don't find a ton of that or whatever. And I'm sure everybody's got their reasoning for it. You know, I'm sure it's an overhead thing and costs,
yeah.
and you got to put in a whole kitchen, and then it's more staff and blah, 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 all down the
But
road.
after you drink a couple beers, what do you want to do?
Exactly.
You want to eat.
You can have a very small menu and be able to do that.
Right.
But those Von Hansen pretzels, every time I see those, I shake my fist at them. Darn you Von Hansens.
But on the flip side, though, a lot of breweries do have food trucks. You know, that's a pretty common thing.
That is becoming a little bit more prevalent. Although that is one of the things I was watching I was going to read an article the other day about, things that should, die quickly. And I love food trucks, and I don't think that they should die anytime soon. But I think that the fact that like you go to a food truck and I'm going to get like 2 little tacos. All right, that'll be $27.
They're super expensive.
And I understand you got to pay for the truck and you got to pay for the blah, blah, blah and pay for the things and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, no, the idea of a food truck is to be able to have like something else, something different out of a restaurant and away from it. But now it's just I don't know. It's a whole different thing.
And I agree. And a lot of the food trucks that I've eaten from, they specialize in this or that. And it isn't even that good. Like, I've never gotten food from a food truck, and I'm like, holy hot damn, this is good food. Like,
I'm
just like,
completely blown away.
Like, I just spent $30 for this. Like,
Right.
I could have done this myself in my own kitchen.
Exactly.
And I don't cook.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. And that's always tough when you have something like that because, it's like, I'm really looking forward to being able to try X, whatever it is, like whether it be pizzas, because some of them are pretty good. They got like the brick oven like
Right.
pizzas. So I've had some of those that are pretty good, but like, especially like taco trucks or something like that, it's like, okay, if you're going to try to go down that road. Like there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of good Mexican food out there. And if it tastes like Taco Bell, that's a problem, although going to Taco Bell anymore is $18. Ugh.
And the tacos are awful.
Exactly.
Like, the lettuce is in the paper. It's not in the taco. Like, the service at Taco Bell has just been awful lately.
Pretty much anything fast food is starting to kind of fall apart that way.
Well, it's a bunch of punk kids that work there, and they don't give 2 craps about what they're doing
Exactly.
anymore.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of care in the world at all. I went to Hardee's today. I was like, it was pretty good, but it was still like, it was $21. Of course, I got so they apparently have these like candied bacon that you can get too, which I was like, wait, what? I don't know. Okay. So I had like one of them, but it was like $3.50 for this little fry cup of 4 bacon strips that are candied or something like that. So
And they're probably about 2 millimeters thick too. They're not even like thick cuts.
Yeah. It was pretty darn thin, but it was, I don't know. It was weird. It was fine, but it was definitely like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's what I'm, having for lunch, Try not to go to Hardee's or too much fast food, but, oddly enough, the city that I work in doesn't not exactly have a plethora of
fine dining.
Yeah, it's
There's no Fogo del Chao up there.
No. It's pretty few and far between. It's kind of like if you want to go out to any of the sit down restaurants, you can go to this place, and then back to the other place by Friday.
Perfect.
So that's kind of. Which is fine. I mean, it's small town, and that's kind of, what the bit is. I totally get it, and I understand. But, and I end up going to Subway twice a week or, Hardee's or something like that. And what's really funny, though, is like, so the Hardee's is like from where I work, it's like 2.5 blocks away. And so if I really feel fat and lazy, I drive there. And I sit in the drive through and I'm like, I can still see my office from here. Oh my God, this is just, I should have walked, and I do sometimes, I do walk that normally, but it's like right next to a Quick Trip. So I always go to the Quick Trip instead because way more good food and options and
a lot more selection.
Exactly.
Well, pretty soon it's going to be cold out, so you'll be driving anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah. Which then I'll be like starting the car for 10 minutes.
Right.
before
you go drive the 2 blocks. Yeah.
Exactly. So. Anyway, so back to the tangent about food there. Like, I'm kind of a foodie sometimes, which that's why I eat fast food, right? That's so Mason Ale Works is one of the two breweries here in the collaboration. We'll kind of start with them a little bit. They started in 2015 in Oceanside, California. They had a group of experienced beverage hospitality groups, I guess. So like if you look on their website, all of the different people that are involved in it, whether it be the owner, Grant Tondros, he, at the time when he opened it up, he owned 3 different restaurants in the San Diego area. So he had a lot of food service or service industry type of experience or things like that. So, he started the Mason Ale Works, and the people that he has involved in it are very connected with different things. One of the guys that he has listed with part of his staff, if I bring up their specific website, I could probably get his name, but that's fine because we'll remember his name later. But
not after a couple of these at 9.8%.
Exactly.
Sunday Beer League.
But they describe this guy as he is the Kevin Bacon of brewing, where he is only a few degrees away from knowing basically everybody in the industry.
Oh,
and
okay.
So like the people that they have around him are very.
Who is this now? The guy
centric.
that owns the restaurants? You're talking him or
it's one
brewmaster?
One of the people that works for him.
Oh, okay.
So Grant Tondros is the guy that owns it primarily, but he's got a whole selection of people that work for him. Let's see here. Get the actual information. I'll go ahead and I'll bring up the full information because as long as I'm here, why not? Let's go ahead and do that. The guy that basically knows everybody that they kind of do that is Cesar Torres. He is the SoCal Hype Man for the House of Mason, is what they describe him as.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's quite the title there.
Exactly. So,
the SoCal Hype Man.
So they recommend
does he brew beer?
He apparently is just the hype man.
Oh,
I don't know. He does have a sweet mustache. So he looks like he probably drinks a lot of craft beers.
I think we need a hype man.
He's listed as the key account consultant.
Wow, that sounds real important.
Why not? They got a guy who's a national distribution manager, but he's also worked with some massive chains over the course of years. Chains account consultant, production manager. Tyler Lynch is their production manager. So he is, part of that. He's usually in the IPAs, hazy IPAs thing, winning different Mazer Cups and different awards over the course of his career.
This is all the Mason Ale Works you're talking, right?
Yep. This is all Mason Ale Works. So Grant Tondros, the head Mason, as they call him, involved in the beverage alcohol industry since 1996, and then started as a part-time job and kind of worked into the brewing culture in the early 2000s. And then after working for retail and a national distributor, then he set out with the group of friends to be able to get Mason Ale Works off the ground. So
interesting. Where did you say the tap houses were?
So originally it was in Oceanside, California. That was in 2015, and I couldn't find exactly when they moved. I believe that it was 2019 when they moved. At that time, things really took off for them. They went from just 4 states that they were distributing up to 12, and I think actually this year they're up to 28. I actually have the whole list here if you want to hear the entire list. But Minnesota is on that list, so they do. Mason Ale Works themselves do distribute here. I'm guessing not super widely, but if you go to like a Wine and More or something like that, you'll likely be able to find something there.
Sure.
So,
maybe we ought to get in the 2 guys into your private jet and fly to one of these tap rooms.
If we got some time after we get done, we can't drink and drive, so we can fly, have somebody else fly us out there. So, I got
the pilot on speed dial. We'll get the plane fired up.
There we go.
Warm it up a little bit because it's getting a little chilly out.
It's getting a little chilly out there. Get that thing on the tarmac and get some stuff working up. I'll have to make sure, though, before we take off, though, for the jet, we got to stop at the bowling alley in Bram because the Mason Ale Works is in a restaurant and brewery and bowling alley.
Nice.
It is Mason Ale Works and Urge Common House Brewery. So
where is that at?
This is in now San Marcos is where they are. So
I'm assuming that's still California.
Yes, it's still California.
So there's a bowling alley
right
in the
San
brewery.
Diego. Yeah, it's kind of in the San Diego area.
After a couple of these, you won't be bowling too well.
No. I I don't know that I bowl too well anyway, but I like to call it aiming fluid. It helps be able to get me real good and dialed in.
I like that aiming fluid.
Mm-hmm. You use that for volleyball sometimes even, more so in the summer than, in the winter. But summer is played usually at a bar somewhere. So you can use a lot of, got to get warmed up for the game or something. So, yeah. So, we'll have to get the jet and get the bowling alley stuff, the bowling balls and the shoes, and mostly just the shoes, because I don't want to wear somebody else's shoes. I mean, it's probably fine.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Like if I have my own shoes, I'm just going to bring my own shoes. It's going to be, it's not a big deal.
I think we should get a bowling ball made with our logo inside the bowling ball. Like one of those translucent bowling balls.
Yeah, like the skull ones that they
inside.
have. Yeah, we could probably make something like that.
How much that would cost?
I don't know how we make a 3D version of our logo.
That's for somebody to figure out.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, somebody's. Like if you have ideas in your head of how to be able to do this, reach out on our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook. So many more, Instagram. That would be kind of cool to be able to have something like that. That's when we need to get more swag to be able to. When we have the video, we got to have the stuff on the wall with all the logoing. Yeah, the neon should be pretty easy to make. Probably not cheap.
Bend a few tubes.
Exactly. What could go wrong? So, so back in 2015 when they started, they have since developed into a larger brand. They actually at one point in time they were distributing so much so fast that they had to actually contract with 4 other different breweries to be able to keep up with demand.
Oh, wow.
They did.
That's a nice problem to have.
They did contract brewing just because it was so huge that it built so quickly. So it's kind of a crazy build as far as what they had. So now the article I'm reading is they're kind of patching in with Taps Brewery, which is more of like they have a brewery, but they're more of like a distributor. So it's more of a large scale distribution ship. So that's going to help be able to push that out there quite a bit more. So their original brew pub, it started with about a 60 barrel capacity. They had 320 barrel tanks to raise their cellar capacity to 1,000 barrels. Their total cellar capacity is now 1,825 barrels. Now, as far as how much they have for distributorship, I don't have that information. But as far as what they have for cellar capacity, that's still a pretty solid amount.
That's quite a bit.
If you get close to 2,000 barrels worth of beer that you can just have ready.
What was the number again?
They currently have 1,825 barrels worth of cellar capacity. So
that's 56,575 gallons after a little arithmetic there.
That was pretty quick on that one.
For the average barrel of beer of 31 U.S. gallons is the average.
That's pretty solid. I like it.
Yeah, I've got good arithmetic skills from high school still.
Flashing it all over the place. There. There you go. I like it. They're apparently looking at, as far as future expansion, they're looking at a infrastructure area to be able to get some additional space, partially the additional space, but also to be able to, up production in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with a 10,000 square foot facility.
Oh,
so
okay.
It would potentially up that even more. So yeah, they're definitely making some stuff happen and making some stuff be able to kind of not dominate the market, but really be able to get out there a lot of what they do. So
more exposure, more distribution.
But they have a lot of really fun cans. If you go to their website, you can see they have Dankstein Monster. It's an unfiltered IPA, but it's got a Frankenstein on it. There is even an Immortal, which almost looks like a cross between He-Man and Skeletor. I think that's the one that you'd seen before. This one is just a million pennant flags all over the place with Minnesota and Blackstack and Mason Ale Works.
California. And the pennants look like they're from the 60s and 70s. So it's kind of like a throwback can. There's a couple baseball cards on the front that say Mason Ale Works with an old guy probably from the 60s or 70s style baseball card. And there's another one with a catcher throwing his mask. Blackstack Brewing. It's kind of a neat can. It's kind of a throwback can, I would say, from the 60s or 70s style with the colors and the design and so forth.
Yeah, they have a lot of really cool labels and whatnot. So that's sometimes breweries have just the one label and then it's just the name of it, whatever their style is. But this one definitely leans into a whole wide variety of different things. They have Harry and the Sandersons. It's a hazy double IPA, but it's got Harry and the Hendersons. It's got the
sure.
Sasquatch on the front there. They have Hop Assault, but it's basically, it looks like the old the Morton salt, with the girl with the umbrella on that. They have one that's like a Weapon X double dry hopped IPA, and that's got Wolverine, like the cartoon version, like the older yellow and type of look. So yeah, got a lot of fun stuff.
What was the salt one again?
Hop Assault.
Hop Assault. I wonder how much hops is in there.
It is a
as far as the taste.
West Coast IPA with strata and citra hops, notes of dark berry, lemon peel, and slight pine.
Oh, you gotta like the slight pine.
Yeah, they have a little bit of slight pine. Yep. So that's at least that's their November 2023 lineup. So but yeah, you can find a lot of that on their website, masonaleworks.com is where you can find a lot of that information. So, but to kind of bring it more locally, they collabed with Blackstack Brewing. Blackstack, as you may or may not know, is in St. Paul. They have a 300-person tap room, very IPA driven, but kind of a local place. And
you've been down to Blackstack Brewing down in St. Paul, right?
I have been down
What's
there.
the inside of that place look like? Is there like a theme there? Is it industrial? Like kind of what do they got going on?
It's pretty industrial. Blackstack, they kind of lean into the industrial portion of it. They still have the old, because I don't know if it used to be like a blacksmith building, but it still has the stacks.
Oh, okay.
They're still up there.
Hence Blackstack Brewing.
Exactly. So it's apparently it's right next to the same building as Can Wonderland is. I have not been to Can Wonderland, so I did not know that it was right next to there.
Can Wonderland.
Yeah, but I have not been to that one. But yeah, Blackstack, I've been there. A really kind of a cool place, 20,000 square foot facility owned by a gentleman named Scott Johnson is what it is. So kind of an interesting place to be able to have. And
I wonder if Scott Johnson wants to come on the podcast sometime.
Well, if you know Scott Johnson, go ahead and reach out to him. I have a feeling there's a part of me that feels like one of my friends I might actually know him because she spends a lot of time there and she tends to know a lot of people because she talks to everybody and talks a lot to everybody. And so she tends to be very outgoing and
perfect,
very talkative to wherever she can. So I'll have to ask her if she knows him or would be able to maybe set us up with a little interview. It'd be kind of a fun thing to be able to do. So,
yeah, it would.
But
why not? On location. Two guys on location.
Love it.
Blackstack Brewing, St. Paul, Minnesota.
We'll have to get shirts with the QR code on it, so people can just walk up behind us. So, which that's one of the things that what was it? What was the way that it was described? Things that had a resurgence because of the pandemic, and that would be things QR like code. Zoom, and the QR code was basically like on the way out as kind of like a useless kind of thing, but then nothing could be touched or whatever. And so QR codes kind of became a massive thing. And now you use it for dang near everything.
And QR codes, they've been around for like 15 or 20 years too. They only kind of started taking a foothold right before the pandemic, but they were kind of going out, like you said.
Right.
And then they came back because of the pandemic, but really they've been out for like 20 years or something crazy. And I was thinking about that when I read that. I hadn't seen a QR code 20 years ago. If I did, I was probably just brushed it off.
Yeah. No, I had no idea. No idea that they existed that long. I mean, it's supposed to make sense because stuff's usually around longer than you think it is. But yeah, I had no idea that it was back that long. So
yeah, it's been around for quite some time.
Kind of an interesting deal. So Blackstack's in St. Paul, as I mentioned, Johnson is the Scott Johnson, the owner, paired with a former brewer, head brewer of Excelsior Brewing, and then got everybody from his family involved. The marketing is handled by his wife. The 26-year-old son has been in training as the assistant brewer, and Cooper, another 23-year-old son, works in sales, and the 16-year-old daughter, Quinn, is in charge of environmental efficiency and social media.
Well, because that's important.
Well, when you have a 16-year-old, that's what it's going to be. But this article is from 2017 when they had they were first opening up. So going. Yeah, so they've been open since then. And so I think they maybe expanded maybe a little bit of their capacity. They had a 5,000 barrel capacity initially, but I think that they're probably a little bit bigger, but I don't know that they're a whole lot bigger because at least I haven't seen their location change. But
that's still 155,000 gallons of beer.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of beer.
At the time in 2017, they had a recipe catalog 93 batches deep.
Wow.
So they had kind of everything that was out there.
That's quite the selection.
Yeah. It's, kind of a little bit all over everything.
I think we were born in the wrong families.
I think so too.
Why couldn't we be born in like a family with beer?
Yeah, why is my last name not Shell?
Right. That's what I was thinking. That's the family I want to be in. I think if we go talk to them, maybe they can adopt us.
Maybe. We're going to try to figure that out next year. Try to be able to get an on location at Shell's with
that would
like
be cool.
The family, and
with
we'll ask it. Yeah, if we can get Jace on the program, we'll talk to him and we'll ask him flat out. I'm not shy to.
No. Hey, you need a son.
Me or,
hey, if you need a son to carry on the tradition, I'm 41. I've got a good 35 years left in me. I can carry something on.
Exactly. We'll make something work. So yeah, kind of interesting. For that. So that's kind of the rundown a little bit of Blackstack Brewing and the other side of Mason Ale Works, crafted and canned in, well, it says San Diego, California, but it's kind of close.
That must be where it's brewed or distributed out of or something. It's not too bad for a triple IPA or India Pale Ale, also known as. I'm still trying to figure out how I can describe it to the listener, like what it tastes like. It's kind of a tough one to describe this. It's definitely hoppy, but it's not crazy hoppy. The aftertaste is pretty smooth. It's not real bitter.
Taking a look at a map here. San Marcos is kind of with Oceanside and Carlsbad on the north side of San Diego.
Oh, okay.
So still in the U.S., though, because it is just a few miles away from Tijuana.
Yeah, a lot of fun can be had in Tijuana, too.
Tijuana. We could do an online. We could go international.
We could.
Is what we could
I've been to Mexico, but not Tijuana. We might have to try that.
I'm not opposed to that. So
on location from Mexico. I wonder how many breweries are in Mexico.
I know that there's at least a couple.
There's got to be something.
I like Modelo is one of my favorite Mexican beers.
See, I like Dos Equis, the green one.
There you go.
Not the brown one. Yep. I like the green one.
That's a solid option. Dos Equis, the Modelo. I like Modelo Negro a little bit better than Modelo.
It's not too bad. I've had that one.
Some Mexican lagers for sure. Absolutely.
Not a fan of Corona. Sorry for Corona fans. I'm just not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of lighter lagers, I guess. I guess that would be a Corona, would be a lighter type lager. Not a big fan. I like beer that has substance or flavor, something that makes the taste bud scream a little bit.
And I like Coronas, but mostly it's kind of a time and place. Something like this, I'm going to drink something with a little bit more, like you're saying, a little bit more substance to it. But like if I'm playing volleyball, that's where you get like a Coors Light or a Mick Golden Light or Corona, because Corona's got a little more flavor than those, but not by a lot.
Well, you got to be focused when you're out there.
Exactly.
Balls over.
Got to be dialed in. It's more so when they hit them back. That's when the problems start occurring. So, but yeah, that's a triple IPA, 9.8%.
It's pretty good beer. I'd buy it. I'd buy it and drink some more of it for sure. So it does say Sunday Beer League on it. So what else happens on Sunday?
Well, I suppose there's football for some places.
Football. So let's talk a little bit of football here. Let's talk about, first we'll start it out with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to start with them because they're not playing good this year. Somehow they're managing to barely win games. Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes does not look like Patrick Mahomes.
He has not looked good. I have Kelsey on my fantasy football team, and he's had very up and down weeks. Some weeks he has kind of taken over, and it's been good, but I don't know. I have one of their receivers too, and he's done nothing all season long.
Their receiving core is terrible.
It's basically trash is kind of what they're working with. So yeah, they got a little bit of a running game and Jason Kelsey.
That's about it. Yeah, I drafted
Travis Kelsey. Jason's the one that plays for the
Eagles.
The Eagles. Yeah, he's the other one.
Same thing. Whatever.
Right.
They're all
football players. Yeah, they're all football players.
Yeah. Who did they draft as what? Rashid Rice. What's his first name? His last name's Rice. What's his first name? I can't think of his name.
I can't think
He's
of
on my fantasy team too, but he's on my taxi squad.
Right.
But they legit have no wide receivers. That could be why Mahomes is struggling, though, too.
Yeah.
In Denver, he apparently had the flu, but come on now. You're the MVP. You lost to Denver. That's terrible.
Michael Jordan had the flu once, too. I remember how that went.
Against the Jazz. We don't want to talk about that. I like the Jazz. Not a huge fan of Michael Jordan.
Especially with the old Karl Malone and John Stockton.
Jeff
Hornacek.
Man, they were good.
Brian Russell,
Yeah, I was reading
Greg
the stat
Ostertag.
somewhere. Well, it was probably Facebook or some social media stat about John Stockton, that if any NBA player today would have to average 12 assists a game for the next 12 years, and they would still be like 2,000 assists behind John Stockton. Like, that's insane. He's sick.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal with what he could do.
Way too underrated.
And he was just basically an unknown. Like, I don't know if you've seen, there was a video clip at one point or whatever when he was on part of the Dream Team, and he like actually met some people that were talking about, you know, like in Barcelona, they were talking, he was just out with his family, and, you know, ran into some people, and he's like, oh, I love basketball. And John Stockton's one of my favorite people or whatever. And just having a regular conversation with this guy.
And then I didn't realize it was John Stockton.
Never really put it together that it was him. Because he's just so like, I don't know. He's like a Kirk Cousins kind of guy. Right. You know what I mean? He's kind of like a regular Joe, you know, kind of deal. But
interesting thing about him playing on the Dream Team in Barcelona, he played with a broken leg the whole time. How is that for toughness?
Unreal.
He's playing with a broken, well, I guess I wouldn't say it was broken in half, but it was a fracture.
Right.
That's still got to be painful.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're still playing basketball and not missing a beat. Like, that's pretty impressive. That's toughness.
He's probably going to have to do some resting, have a rest day.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, don't even get me started on that side of the NBA. That's why I don't like the NBA. But
no, the NBA is awful.
Many different reasons why I don't like the NBA. But anyway, yeah. So football, Chiefs were bad. Vikings were, I don't know what in the world happened there, but you're down.
That is something.
And I knew that, like, I watched the game and I sat on the edge of my seat, and you can ask Amanda, like, I literally sat up and got to the edge of my seat. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know.
I'm trying to watch the football game.
It was kind of exciting at that point in time or whatever. And I was disappointed. And like the defense gave up that one drive at the end of the game. Like, if you want to win a game, like, you have to make that
they
stop.
were gassed. I mean,
absolutely. I completely.
The offense put them in such terrible positions through the first half. Like, they were turning the ball over on the 20.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And they held them to 4 field goals. You know, it could have been way worse, but the defense was gassed.
That one drive, though, they needed just anything, you know, to be able to come away with that one. But I mean, credit Dobbs and really credit Kevin O'Connell. The amount of things that I've read now where he was basically like calling the play and allowing him to say the play. But while he's saying the play, in his headset, he's also like, all right, so what this means is this guy's going this way. He's running an in-cutting route 15 yards downfield. This guy's going here, and this is going to be your hot read. And so, because it cuts out after like 15 seconds or something like that. So he's trying to basically diagram the entire thing and teach him what the play means
while
as he's talking about it. So
yeah, that is insane. O'Connell should be almost coach of the year just for that game alone.
It amazed me. There was, who is it, with Ben Lieber, I think, that tweeted or X'd. What is the new thing now? Because it's not, you didn't tweet it. Did you exit?
Exit? I don't. Well, so Elon Musk says Twitter, a.k.a. X. Or he says X, a.k.a. Twitter. That's what Musk says. So I don't know what you call it. Whatever.
Well, I think that I'm just going to call it tweeted. So he X'd a thing earlier today that he was talking about the coaching staff, and they are an elite level coaching staff. And don't get me wrong, like what Flores has done is unfreaking real with basically nothing that, you know, he had over there. But the thing that I seen that it was the most impressive was that the Vikings came away with a victory, but no big deal. They were only down quarterback 1, quarterback 2, backup running back / quarterback 3 or quarterback 4, whatever it was.
Snapped his
Achilles. He was the emergency quarterback. Wide receiver, arguably 1 or 2 right now, just because of JJ being out. Your left tackle,
1, Darsa out,
and a change up front, like one guy after another. And then at one point, TJ even came out of the game for a little while with like a little rib thing going on. So no big deal. He's just missing, like, I mean, when are you ever going to be down the best wide receiver in the league? Basically the number 2 receiver. So now you're down to like 3 through whatever, you know, when Brandon Powell is starting to star for your team, clearly, I mean, it worked, but, you know, clearly it's a much different type of deal. So yeah, just the amount of people that they were down, and then to be able to like, that's fine. We're just going to rally and we're just going to do the thing, you know.
Insane.
At no point in time did I feel like, and this is probably the most impressive thing to me, was yes, you just try to get more people involved. You try to give people a chance, and Dobbs just to be able to do anything was impressive to me. He didn't start real good, but he finished well.
Finished very well, yeah.
But the passes that he missed, it definitely looked like it was mostly, I just don't have that rapport of where you're going to be or how quick you are or how deep you're going to cut that off or things like that. You know what I mean? That's
he
stuff
didn't
you get
even
with
throw
repetition.
many passes in practice. He said on a post-game interview, well, I think I threw him like 2 passes in pregame warm-up. Oh, okay. Perfect.
So, I don't know if you heard there was they had an interview with Brian O'Neill after the game, the right tackle, and asking about, just anything with that. And he said that during the first quarter at some point in time, I don't know if it was after the first series or when it was, he went to the sideline and said, all right, offensive team, everybody come over here. This is how I sound when I do the cadence. And just did the cadence right there. Talked with Garrett Bradbury about how to be able to just basically all the things you would work on in practice, just did it right then and there on the sideline and went through his progressions and all right, this is what I'm trying to do. And this is what I'm looking for. And this is how I'm going to explain everything out. And just little things like that nobody really thinks of until you get in that type of situation. And you just, I don't know. I was very impressed with all that,
That's
but
crazy.
The way that the coaching staff was able to make that work, especially with the way that O'Connell was able to still make some plays happen and explain it in a way that Dobbs could process it.
Communication.
While you're trying, because from him, he's trying
while the game is going on.
Here's the play, and I can say the play back, but I don't know what any of it means.
Yeah.
And now you have to explain the whole thing. Basically, we're drawing stuff in the dirt.
Like backyard football.
Oh, absolutely.
But Dobbs did say before the game even started, the coaching staff, O'Connell asked him how comfortable he was because he was the backup. And he did say, I can run anything on the call sheet that you made for the game.
Mm-hmm.
So he was already prepared enough to run a 2-minute drill or hurry up or whatever they're calling that was on the call sheet. He said, anything outside the call sheet? No clue. I'm sorry. I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah, you're speaking French to me. Originally going in here, the thing that I think was most impressive, what Dobbs does was unreal, and the coaching staff and all those things or whatever. I believe his name is David Quisenberry, the left tackle that stepped in.
Oh, is that what his name was? I couldn't remember.
I think his first name is David. I'm not 100% sure. I will legit admit that, I may be wrong on that one.
For some reason, I thought his last name was like Schottenheimer or Schomer. Or,
well,
clearly I'm wrong if his last name was Quisenberry.
So
Schlottenheimer. For some reason, that's what I was thinking.
Are you thinking Austin Schlotman?
He's
usually backup center.
Yeah.
But David Quisenberry, he started in place of Christian Darasaw, and I didn't really hear his name called at all. And if you're an offensive lineman, especially a tackle, and your name isn't really called, that's a good thing.
At least you played pretty solid, at least.
That's a solid day at the ballpark.
Especially when you're filling in for the number one tackle in football, arguably, or at least a top 3 tackle in football on Darasaw.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was extremely impressed with the way that they played, but I don't know. We're going to have to, do you want to play this next weekend? Because it sounds like everybody's hurt.
So pretty much. Well, we're on a bye next week. So I think
Wednesday or Thursday when it comes out, it's just going to be like a list of like,
no, I'm wrong.
People.
We played the Saints.
I was going to say, I think we played the Saints.
And then we played Denver.
There we go.
So Denver's on Sunday night.
I was going to say that's a night game if I remember. Yeah. Denver's so bad. But I love watching that happen because I like Denver as a team. I liked them with John Elway. I liked them with Peyton Manning. I, liked certain eras of them. But I just can't wrap my head around Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. I just don't like the guy. Mr. Unlimited. I just can't do it. I don't know. If you have opinions on that, go ahead and reach out to us on the social media platforms.
Right. Yeah. Leave some comments. Let us know your opinions on it. I can't stand Sean Payton because he basically put down Nathaniel Hackett, the coach of the Broncos last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was completely unprofessional and absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And especially how you're performing this year, you ain't doing any better than he was doing. In fact, looks like you're doing worse to me, from the eye test anyways, without getting into numbers and stats and analytics and all that.
Absolutely.
Like, come on, man. Yeah. Show a little professionalism. You're supposed to be a leader of the league, a leader of a team, a leader of 50-some guys. Like, come on, man.
You can make whatever argument about like the whole Bounty Gate stuff and the things that he did with the Saints and pushing the lines of legal and whatnot. But you can make the same argument like with Bill Belichick for something like that too. But yeah, like you said, once he like crossed that line where he's like, no, this was just garbage. We had to basically reset altogether because it's just an awful culture from what he did. And you're basically calling that guy out flat out. It was amazing to watch the Jets then beat him.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Football, I tell you. Fantasy football is driving me up the wall too, but that's fantasy all the time.
Yeah, fantasy football sucks. I wish I never got back into it. Last year was the first year I played again after like 4 years off, maybe 5 years off, something like that. Yeah, I still wish I'm not playing. It kind of ruins football. Mm-hmm. You're too busy focused on the ticker at the bottom of the screen or what's happening. You're constantly on your phone rifling through like, oh my God, who's scoring? Who's doing what? You can't even enjoy watching a football game anymore.
And if you're not doing that, you're going to be sub 500 and just, so you got to kind of make that decision. I usually I go ahead and just be a bad fantasy team. But I don't know. I've actually had a fairly successful run here for the last handful of weeks or whatever. But it still is like, oh man, I just don't want to care that much about like the specifics of that. I was very happy that we scored a touchdown and Madison caught the touchdown, but I really would have wanted to go to Jordan Addison instead.
Right.
Like, why is that a problem? You hate to cheer for like a different team.
Right. And it's so hard when it's like your homer team, the team wherever you are and whoever you root for. Mm-hmm. You don't want to root against your team if you've got fantasy guys playing against your team, mm-hmm. And you want to root for them, but it's got to be specific players. That's why I typically try to avoid all Minnesota Vikings at all costs on my team because I don't have to deal with that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Fortunately, some of those Minnesota Vikings are pretty damn good, so it'd be nice to have them on your team.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's
like
the tough
Jefferson
part.
When he's not hurt.
Right.
Kirk Cousins when he's not hurt.
Exactly. Well, that's our. I don't know. I think that's our story. Unless you got additional nuggets of pearls of wisdom that you would like to drop.
Well, the Sunday Beer League beer is pretty good. I don't know if I. Nuggets of wisdom. That's quite interesting. I'm not sure how many nuggets of wisdom that I have, but I could probably come up with something here.
Random fact of the day: avocados are a fruit, not a vegetable. And the Eiffel Tower can be 15 centimeters taller during the summer due to thermal expansion.
Oh wow, that's some nuggets of knowledge.
It gets smaller in the cold.
So here's a beer nugget of knowledge.
Ooh,
in the 1600s, in the 1600s, some monks in Germany only drank beer and water during their 40-day fast for Lent.
Lucky?
Yeah. They concocted an unusually strong brew full of carbohydrates and nutrients. In 2011, a journalist attempted to recreate their fast. He lost 25 pounds in a week.
Wow. I feel like that's bad.
All the nuggets of knowledge I probably have for today.
Yeah, I think that's I can Google, random quick facts.
Yeah, where are we at for time? We'll have to edit this out, but What's the time at?
So I started at about 10 minutes and we're at about 56. So we're at about 45 minutes.
Okay, so one quick question for you before we get out of here. This needs to be question. Like a 60-second answer, maybe a 120-second answer.
Rapid access memory.
Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Should athletes have to graduate college before they go pro?
I would say no. I like them being in college more than 1 year. Because if you're going to be 1 year, just do high school and just be done with it. Like, let's not mess around because you're not even there for that or whatever. But I like the idea that, they will have that education still has to be a cornerstone of what you're doing. And I feel like we're kind of in that era now, especially with like the G League and different leagues where now there's so many avenues to just skip the whole process, which is fine until you're not good enough to get there.
Right.
And
which is most of college athletes.
Exactly. And so I don't think that they should be required to graduate, but I do think that they should probably stay in college a little longer than what they do.
What about if they don't graduate and they go pro? Should they have to pay the school for their education? because most athletes get a scholarship to go play. If you don't fulfill your 4-year scholarship or what you're doing, should you have to repay it back?
I would say no. I could see that argument a little bit more, and now in the NIL, the name, image, likeness, because now athletes are getting some financial benefit to that. But prior to that, especially, I would say no, because even if they were there for 2 years, the amount of money that they bring into the school well pays for like that portion of education that they get. I guess is kind of the way that I'd look at it. Now with the NIL money, I feel like that kind of changes that conversation a little bit more. That okay, well, if you're not going to be here for 4 years, you're not getting the education side of it. It is just that, but now you're getting paid as well.
Well, what about a school like the University of Minnesota? That's publicly funded. We fund that with our tax money. So,
and that's where I see it. But and that's the tough part when you get into like football or certain like income making sports, because I think it's only football and men's basketball. Or maybe it's men's hockey. I think there's only like 2, but they make enough money for like the rest of all of the other programs.
The rest of the programs.
And so they fund all the rest of the stuff. So that's where, I mean, we fund that, but essentially what we're doing is we're paying the coaches. That's really what it is.
Millions of dollars.
When you look at even, whether it be Minnesota or nationwide, like it's something like 70% of states, their highest paid public official is a coach in college,
right?
A college coach of some, where they're usually the college football coach, like it's not the governor, it's not whatever, but I mean, are you going to pay your governor $8.5 million a year?
Unlikely. It's not our governor anything.
It's not a recruiting kind of thing. It's a little bit different, but it is kind of funny to think of like that's their highest paid public official is a coach usually. So that's usually, I think, where that goes, but I don't know. That's good things to ponder.
Something to think about. Yeah. Let us know in the comments what you think.
Yeah. If you have some opinions, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, YouTube.
All the major social media platforms, all the major podcast platforms.
X. See that 9.8%ers kicking in.
AKA Twitter. Yeah. The Sunday Beer League beer here is starting to kick in.
It's a pretty solid beer, though. Very smooth. I highly recommend it. We found it at, if you're in the St. Paul area, if you go West 7th, closer to the river, I'm trying to remember exactly where it is, but it's a little bit further down there. Go to the Dabbler Depot is what it's called. The Dabbler Depot. They have this there. So that's where we found it. So if you get a chance to go down there. Otherwise, just grab any Blacklist. Blackstack is what I meant. Blacklist is in Duluth. That's a different one. That's a different episode for another
night. Beer's kicking in.
For a different night. So
Blackstack Brewing out of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Mason Aleworks and Blackstack Brewing collaboration. Triple India Pale Ale. So hope you enjoyed the episode today. And Sean, any words of, we already had the pearls of wisdom. So
I'm all out of pearls and I'm all out of wisdom. So thanks everybody for listening. Go grab yourself a Sunday Beer League beer if you can find it. I appreciate y'all listening. Leave some comments. Let us know any ideas, thoughts, what you think. And God bless everybody. Thanks a lot.
Like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, tell anybody you want to be able to have. 2 Guys Beer. Andy Backstrom for Sean Field. Until next time, have a great night, everybody.